Ladies and gentlemen, President Trump is going to win re-election. I called the 2015 election the 2016 election in 2015. I called it in 2015. NPR quoted me. I was the only person on the left. I was the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post, and the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. I was the only person on the left to call the election. I really was the only. Wrote endlessly in the Hill, the Huffington Post salon. NPR quoted me. The link is below. I said Clinton would lose swing states. She lost swing states. 538 was quoted in the same paragraph. They said that Trump wouldn't be GOP nominee. I think he won that. Crime lab scandal rocked Kamala Harris's term as San Francisco district attorney. All Trump has to do, and he might not do this, but he should. However, everyone knows and can read and can. Everyone knows about this. It's 1,000 cases that were basically kicked out because of prosecutorial misconduct tied to a crime lab, where one of the technicians. This is hilarious. Only Democrats get away with this. One of the technicians was skimming cocaine from the crime lab. And Kamala Harris did not tell, and the prosecutors around her did not tell the defense attorneys that one person or people at that crime lab were actually taking the drugs for personal use. So anyway, everything's historic and unprecedented. It's so historic. Yeah, we've never had a potential vice president that oversaw a crime lab where people were snorting up the actual narcotics. But anyway, this is the Washington Post, quote, but the turmoil increased with the local criminal justice system at risk of devolving into chaos. Harris took the extraordinary step of dismissing about 1,000 drug-related cases, including many in which convictions had been obtained and sentences were being served. Then there are already people that we know of that have been wrongfully convicted while Kamala Harris was a prosecutor or a city attorney. But this is interesting. This is really interesting. This is an article. Neither Harris nor the prosecutors were working for her had informed defense attorneys of the problems, despite rules requiring such disclosure. Harris, quote, failed to disclose information that clearly should have been disclosed, Superior Court Judge Anne Christine Musullo wrote in a scathing decision in May 2010. And so this was while she was elected Attorney General. Kamala D. Harris was the city's top prosecutor running to become California's Attorney General. Okay, so you have that, and then you have PolitiFact Joe Biden, mostly true, says Kamala Harris oversaw a police department that was, quote, abusing people's rights, and that she did not, quote, disclose to defense attorneys when there was exculpatory evidence. Quote, she didn't do that, she never did it. And so what happened? Along came a federal judge and said enough, and he freed 1,000 of these people. Mostly true. All right. Then you have the issue, ladies and gentlemen, of even when Kamala Harris found out that she had been wrong, or that people were wrongfully convicted, Kamala Harris's offices fought payments to wrongfully convicted. You talk about the systemic injustices. So this is the biggest, most hypocritical, most absurd and outlandish decision by the Democratic Party, because here you have this example. These are the people, by the way, who run purely on public relations and Kamala Harris is like, she's like a monster. When you read, just listen to this. This is Bloomberg. Kamala Harris's office has fought payments to wrongly convicted. Check this out. Jose Diaz was exonerated after serving almost 9 years in a California prison for assaults he didn't commit. But the office of then Attorney General Kamala Harris wasn't ready to let him off the hook. He was wrongfully imprisoned, served 9 years for I'm all for being tough on violent crime, very tough. I'm for the death penalty. I'm all for violent criminals. Just be tough, very tough. But if you're wrongfully convicted, and you have 9 years of your life taken away, the state should. I mean, there's no way to compensate for even 1 second lost. But here, he was wrongfully imprisoned. California. It took 19 years for his conviction to be reversed, and 2 more years for the state of California to grant him compensation for the time he was wrongfully imprisoned. Diaz's battle with Harris's office began in 2012, when a judge reversed his conviction. As state attorney general, her staff vigorously resisted his claim for compensation and tried to make him. So she wouldn't even pay, or she wouldn't even give the money that he was owed, or at least the compensation, or basically he's wrongfully convicted, wrongfully incarcerated, and Kamala Harris still didn't want to compensate the man in any way, shape, or form. Anyway, that's a Bloomberg article. I just read you prior to that a PolitiFact, and then a Washington Post article. By the way, my Twitter impersonator, the lone Twitter impersonator, the one person obsessed with my work, the one person left on Twitter obsessed with my work, one person who is breaking the law. I don't care what country this person is in, or where this person is located, or what state, but the person's breaking the law, and he's having a meltdown. So it's kind of hilarious, just trying to pretend that he's me, which is not only breaking the law, but it's like, it's just so lame. Anyway, I do not have a Twitter account, so if you see anyone impersonating me on Twitter, I suggest you just delete your account like I did. But if you see anyone impersonating me on Twitter, please report that profile to Twitter. Thank you. But they're not going to win based on the hypocrisy. Crime lab scandal rocked Kamala Harris' term as San Francisco district attorney. One of Harris's top deputies had emailed a colleague that a crime lab technician had become increasingly undependable. For testimony, weeks later, the technician allegedly took home cocaine from the lab, possibly tainting evidence and raising concerns about hundreds of cases. 1,000 cases were dropped. 1,000 cases. This is the first time they always, oh my God, it's so historic. This is so historic. They don't care about record. They only care about image. This is a direct, this is a slap in the face, or this is the antithesis of what the protests and the unrest and the chaos and the mayhem and the peaceful protests were all about. Isn't it? So for 4 months, you had media and you had activists and you had protesters saying, well, there's a systemic injustice. I just read you a person of color who was wrongfully convicted, and Kamala Harris didn't even want to compensate the person. So, and then you had 1,000 cases dropped, and they don't even know how many people were wrongfully convicted. So how many people of color did Kamala Harris wrongfully convict? How many people, in general, how many people did Harris wrongfully convict, wrongfully accuse? So, I mean, it boggles the mind, the hypocrisy. That's one of the reasons they'll lose, because people know, like, even though it's not, like, the media, what they do is they cover up everything. Oh, by the way, be here to my 10-minute crowd. Be here, 8 to 9 p.m. Pacific. I always have my live streams on this channel. And subscribe and check out H.A. Goodman's other channel. That's below in the pinned comment. But my live streams are awesome. I have a long live stream starting around 8 to 9 or 9 p.m. Pacific time. And it's fantastic, so be here tonight. But the hypocrisy is unbelievable. That's why one of the reasons President Trump's going to win. You have 1,000 cases that are just tossed out and dropped by Kamala Harris because a crime lab technician, and in addition to other issues, was snorting the narcotics, allegedly. So that whole thing, I don't even know, like, you can look at, they tried to indict the crime lab technician, all these things. So, but in addition to the crime lab that most likely looked like, Frankenstein's, like Frankenstein's dungeon. Okay. In addition to that, you have the issue of not only 1,000 cases dropped because of prosecutorial misconduct or misconduct related to DNA evidence or evidence linked to narcotics, but you also have the issue of Biden accusing Kamala Harris of doing exactly what protesters were protesting against. She's the embodiment of the systemic. I'm voting for President Trump. You can look at his record on race and look at Biden's record on race. Look. President Trump gave allocated more funding to historically black colleges and universities than any president ever in his first term, including President Obama. So nobody knows this, and President Trump should bring this up. President Trump signed the First Step Act. If he was such a racist, horrible monster, why did he do those things? We had record low, and that was prison reform, and that was criminal justice reform. And then you have Biden writing the crime bill to usher in an era of mass incarceration. And then you have Kamala Harris, who's the embodiment of the systemic injustices that people were protesting against. So I don't get it. I don't understand. I don't understand how Democrats and media get away with everything. The hypocrisy is unbelievable. You have 1,000 cases that were forced to be dropped, that were forced to just while Kamala Harris was overseeing them because of prosecutorial misconduct, and she withheld exculpatory evidence in addition to all the problems with those cases and the crime lab. She was known to withhold evidence that could have exonerated defendants. So, I mean, like I said, I'm all for putting away violent criminals, but if a person didn't do it, they didn't do it. So, it's just unbelievable. Give me your thoughts below. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel right now. My Patreon is below if you want to support my voice long term. And it is unbelievable, the hypocrisy. It is unbelievable. They get away with everything because what the media does is the following. Journalism today is the media are, it's a whole bunch of journalists and publications run by people who want one side to win. That's it. It's not about truth. It's about public relations. It's what George Orwell was talking about, pure public relations. Give me your thoughts below. Subscribe to H.A. Goodman's other channel and be here tonight for the live stream.